Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 46, Uddhava visits Vrindavan. Text number 2 onwards. So in the first verse, it is said, Shukdev Goswami said, the supremely intelligent Uddhava was the best counselor of the Vrishni dynasty, a beloved friend of Lord Krishna and a direct disciple of Brihaspati. And he was also a cousin brother of Krishna. Tamaha Bhagavan Preshtam Bhaktam Ekantinam Kvachit Grihitva Panina Panim Prapannarthi Haro Harihi. The Supreme Lord Hari, who relieves the distress of all who surrender to him, once took the hand of his fully devoted, dearmost friend Uddhav and addressed him as follows. Gacchuddhav Brajam Somya Pitrorno Pritim Avaha Gopinam Madviyo Gadhim Mat Sandeshar Vimochayam. Lord Krishna said, dear gentle Uddhav, go to Vraj and give pleasure to our parents and also relieve the gopis suffering in separation from me by giving them my message. Ta man manaska mat prana matarte tyakta dehika mamev daitam preshtam atmanam manasagata ye tyakta lok dharmascha madarte tan vibharmi ham. The minds of those gopis are always absorbed in me, and their very lives are ever devoted to me. For my sake, they have abandoned everything relative to their bodies, renouncing ordinary happiness in this life, as well as religious duties necessary for such happiness in the next life. I alone am their dearmost beloved, and indeed their very self. I personally sustain such devotees who for my sake give up all worldly duties. Here the Lord explains why he wants to send a special message to the gopis. According to the Vaishnava Acharyas, the word Dahika related to the body refers to husbands, children, homes, and so on. The gopis loved Krishna so intensely that they could think of nothing else. Since Shri Krishna maintains ordinary devotees engaged in sadhana bhakti, devotional service and practice, he will certainly maintain the gopis, his most exalted devotees. So he's also always thinking of the gopis, and he's sending a message through them. Maita preya sampreshte durasthe gokulastriyaha smarantyo angam anga vimuyanti virhota kanthe vipalaha. My dear Uddhav, for those women of Gokul, I am the most cherished object of love. Thus, when they remember me, who am so far away, they are overwhelmed by the anxiety of separation. Whatever is dear to us becomes an object of our possessiveness. Ultimately, the most dear object is our very soul or ourself. Thus, things in a favorable relationship to ourself also becomes dear to us, and we try to possess them. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, among countless millions of such dear things, Shri Krishna is the most dear of all, even dearer than one's own self. The gopis had realized this fact, and thus they were stunned in separation from the Lord because of their intense love for him. Although they would have given up their lives, they were kept alive by the Lord's transcendental potency. And also, Krishna had promised them, I'll come back very soon. So they thought if we leave our bodies and Krishna comes back, and it will really hurt him. So they remained alive. धारयन्त्यति कृच्छ्रेण प्रायः प्राणान् कथञ्चन प्रत्यागमन संदेश बल्लव्यो मे मदात्मिकः. Simply because I have promised to return to them, my fully devoted cowherd girlfriend struggled to maintain their lives somehow or other. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, although the gopis of Vrindavan were apparently married, their husbands actually had no contact whatsoever with the supremely attractive qualities of form, taste, fragrance, sound, touch, and so on. Rather, their husbands merely presumed these are our wives. In other words, by Lord Krishna's spiritual potency, the gopis existed entirely for his pleasure, and Krishna loved them in the mood of a paramar. In fact, the gopis were manifestations of Krishna's internal nature, his supreme pleasure potency, and on the spiritual platform, they attracted the Lord by their pure love. Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, Lord Krishna's parents in Vrindavan, had also attained the most exalted state of love for Krishna, and they too could barely maintain their lives in his absence. Thus, Uddhav would also give special attention to them. Shri Shukavacha, iti yukta Uddhavo Rajan, sandesham bharturadhrita, adaya ratham aruya, prayayo nanda gokulam. Shukdev Goswami said, thus addressed, O king, Uddhav respectfully accepted his master's message, mounted his chariot and set off for Nanda Gokul. Prapto Nanda Vrajam Shriman Nimlochati Vibhavaso Channayana Pravishitam Pashunam Kururenubhi. The fortunate Uddhav reached Nanda Maharaj's pasture just as the sun was setting, and since the returning cows and the other animals were raising dust with their hooves, his chariot passed unnoticed. So there was so much of dust raised by these cows and the calves that when Uddhav's chariot came, nobody noticed it, because he came during the evening time, Godhuli Vela. Vasitarte abhyudhir naditam shushbhir vrisha dhavantimishcha vasrabhir udho bhara swavatsakam itastato vilangadbhir govatsar manditam sita godo shabdabhiravam venunam nesvanencha gayanti bhishcha karmani shubhanabal krishnayo Salankrita bhir gopi bhir gopesha suvirajitam Agnyar kartikaatithi govipra pitri devarchananvitah dhupadipesha malyasha gopa vasar manoramam sarvata pushpitvanam dvijagli kulnaditam hansakaranda vakirmeh padma shandascha manditam. Gokul resounded on all sides with the sounds of bulls in rut fighting with one another for fertile cows, with the mooing of cows burdened by their udders, chasing their own calves with the noise of milking and of the white calves jumping here and there, with the loud reverberation of flute playing, and with the singing of the all-auspicious deeds of Krishna and Balaram by the cowherd men and women, who made the village resplendent with their wonderfully ornamented attire. The cowherds' homes in Gokul appeared most charming with their abundant paraphernalia for worship of the sacrificial fire, the sun, unexpected guests, the cows, the Brahmins, the forefathers, and the demigods. On all sides lay the flowering forest, echoing with flocks of birds and swarms of bees, and beautified by its lakes, crowded with swans, karanda ducks, and bowers of lotuses. Although Gokul was merged in grief because of separation from Lord Krishna, the Lord expanded his internal potency to cover that particular manifestation of Vraj and allow Uddhav to see the normal bustle and joy of Raja at sunset. So, along with Uddhavji was walking or coming the Yogamaya of Krishna, covering the sad part of the village. Well, it says it's a village, but look at all the scene over there. Lakes are there, and the cows, and resplendent with the wonderfully ornamented attire, covered men and women. It's not the village that we see these days. Tamagatam samagamya krishnasyanucharam priyam nanda prita parishvajya vasudeva dhiyarchayat. As soon as Uddhava arrived at Nanda Maharaj's home, Nanda came forward to meet him. The cowherd king embraced him in great happiness and worshipped him as none different from Lord Vasudeva. Uddhava looked just like Nanda's son Krishna and gave pleasure to anyone who saw him. Thus, although Nanda was absorbed in thoughts of separation from Krishna, when he saw Uddhava coming towards his house, he became aware of external events and eagerly went down to embrace his exalted visitor. Bhojitam parmanena samvishtam kashipo sukham gatashramam paryaprichat pada samvahanadibhi. After Uddhava had eaten first-class food, being seated comfortably on a bed and being relieved of his fatigue by a foot massage and other means, Nanda inquired from his as follows. Srila Jiva Goswami mentions that Nanda had a servant massage Uddhava's feet since Uddhava was Nanda's nephew. So Uddhavji is of the same age as Krishna. Kachid anga mahabhaga sakhana shura nandana aste kushalle patyadyas yukto mukta suhrit vrata. Nand Maharaj said, my dear most fortunate one, does our friend Vasudeva, the son of Shur, fare well, now that he is free and has rejoined his children and other relatives? Dishtya kanso hata papa sanuga sven bapana sadhunam dharma shilanam yadunam dveshtiya sada. Fortunately, because of his sins, the sinful Kamsa has been killed along with his brothers. He always hated the saintly and righteous Yadus. Api smarti nah Krishna matram surada sakin gopan vrajam chatmanatham gavo vrindavanam girim. See, Nanda Maharaj wanted to ask about Krishna, but he started off with asking about Vasudeva and everything else, but he could not stop himself. And look at what he has. Does Krishna remember us? Does he remember his mother and his friends and well-wishers? Does he remember the cowherds and the village of Raja, of which he is a master? Does he remember the cows, Vrindavan forest, and Govardhan hill? See, this is internal feelings are coming out now. Does he remember all of this? Why didn't he come? Basically, he was going to ask, why did he send you? Why didn't he come? Apyayasyati Govinda swajanan sakridikshitum tarhi drakshyam tadvakram sunasam susamet susmitekshanam. Will Govinda return even once to see his family? If he ever does, we may then glance upon his beautiful face with his beautiful eyes, nose, and smile. Now that Krishna had become a prince in the great city of Mathura, Nanda had lost hope that he would come back to live in the simple cowherd village of Vrindavan. But he hoped against hope that Krishna would come back at least once to visit the simple cowherd folk who had raised him from birth. And actually, Srila Prabhupada writes in his Krishna book that Krishna had promised, when Krishna was starting for Mathura on the chariot driven by Akrura, and the gopis were blocking the way, Krishna assured them that he was coming back just after finishing his business in Mathura. He told them not to be overwhelmed and in this way pacified them. But when he failed to come back with Nanda Maharaj, it appeared that he either cheated them or could not keep his promise. Expert devotees, Prabhupada says, expert devotee means acharyas, however, had decided that Krishna was neither a cheater nor a breaker of promise. Krishna, in his original identity, returned with Nanda Maharaj and stayed with the gopis and Mother Yashoda in his bhava expansion. Krishna and Balram remained in Mathura not in their original forms, but in their expansions as Vasudeva and Sankarshan. The real Krishna and Balram were in Vrindavan in their bhava manifestation, whereas in Mathura, they appeared in Prabhav and Vaibhav expansions. Though those are different details when we get to Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains all this in detail to Sanatana Swami. What is Parabhav, what is Vaibhav, and so technical. It's just very difficult to understand. But anyway, so Prabhupada is saying Krishna stayed back. He didn't go with Akrura, Krishna and Balram, the original, and then the bhava manifestation or expansion. This is the expert opinion of advanced devotees of Krishna. Externally, however, they were absent from Vrindavan. Therefore, when Nand Maharaj was preparing to return to Vrindavan, there was some discussion between him and the boys concerning how they could live in separation. The conclusion to separate was reached by mutual agreement. So, and also there were other considerations. Vasudeva and Devaki, who happened to be the real parents of Krishna and Balram, wanted to keep them now because of the death of Kansa. While Kansa was alive, Krishna and Balram were kept under the protection of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan. Now, naturally, the father and mother of Krishna and Balram wanted them to remain, specifically for the reformatory function of purification or the Gayatri Mantra or thread giving ceremony, the sacred thread ceremony. They also wanted to give them a proper education, for this is the duty of the father. Another consideration was that all the friends of Kansa outside Mathura were planning to attack Mathura because Krishna and Balram were there and they had killed Kansa. For that reason also Krishna's presence was required. Krishna did not want Vrindavan disturbed by enemies like Dantavakra and Jarasandha. If Krishna were to go to Vrindavan, these enemies would not only attack Mathura, but would go on to Vrindavan. And the peaceful inhabitants of Vrindavan would be disturbed. Krishna therefore decided to remain in Mathura, and Nanda Maharaj went back to Vrindavan. Although the inhabitants of Vrindavan felt separation from Krishna, the resulting ecstasy, bhava, caused them to perceive that Krishna was always present with them by his lila or pastimes. So that is why it is said, Vrindavan tyajya padam ekam na gacchati. He doesn't leave Vrindavan, even he doesn't even take a step outside Vrindavan. But now he remained in the bhava expansion, means while talking about Krishna, all the gopis or even Nanda Baba, Yashoda Maya, among their equals, they would always remember Krishna. And this Leela Smaran, and Leela Smaran, the way Radharani or other gopis would talk, it's definitely much more elevated than what we can talk about Krishna. Same pastimes, but the mood, bhav will be different. And it is said that Radharani, when she would discuss Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, she would be in Mahabhav. Mahabhav, not just bhav. Mahabhav. And that only Radharani has that kind of bhav. So this is how Krishna stayed back. He entered the heart of each and every person over there, gopi, gopas, parents, elderly gopis, Everybody, cows, calves, he entered in their heart. So he is always there. Now somebody can say, no, this is only figurative. No, he's not different from his thoughts. He's not different from his name. And he's not different from his thoughts. And this is what Prabhupada explains. Since Krishna had departed from Vrindavan and gone to Mathura, the inhabitants of Vrindavan, especially Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, Srimati Radharani, the gopis and the cowherd boys were simply thinking of Krishna at every step. They were thinking, hey, Krishna was playing in this way. Hey, Krishna was blowing his flute. Hey, Krishna was joking with us in this way. And Krishna was embracing us like this. This is called Leela Smaran. And it is a process of association with Krishna most recommended by great devotees. This is the real process. Even Lord Chaitanya, when he was at Puri, enjoyed Leela Smaran, association with Krishna. Those in the most exalted position of devotion, service, and ecstasy can live with Krishna always by remembering his pastimes. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given us a transcendental literature entitled Krishna Bhavanamrita, which is full with Krishna's pastimes. Exalted devotees can remain absorbed in Krishna thought by reading such books. So this is what we should be doing. And just remembering, thinking of Krishna in every situation, at every place, in every talk that we do, in every work that we do. And then we are never separated from Krishna. Of course, that would increase the yearning to be in the personal presence of Krishna. And when that yearning is there and it increases to an extent, it just purifies us. That purification is what? Of consciousness, purification. That this is all material world and I have nothing to do with here. I only belong to Krishna and Krishna Loka and I want to be with him. And that's when we leave the body, we go back to him. That's it. But here, Maya is very strong. After all, this Krishna's energy. So, but we have completely come under control of Maya. So this process that Prabhupada has given us is basically to take us closer, and really closer to Krishna, so that we are away and away from Maya. And this is also what Krishna wanted Uddhavji to learn. The mood of love, the bhav, and of course we cannot approach that position of Mahabhava or Srimati Radharani. Nobody can. But at least when he saw that, he was like, yes, this is what I want. This is love. So anyway, let's see what's next. Davaganeravat varshacha vrisha sarpacha rakshita duratyebhyo mrityubhya krishnena su mahatmana. So Nand Baba is saying, we were saved from the forest fire, the wind and rain, the bull and serpent demons, from all such insurmountable, deadly dangers by that very great soul, Krishna. Smaratam Krishna Viryani Leela Pang Nirikshitam Hasitam Bhashitam Changa Sarva Nashitila Kriya. As we remember the wonderful deeds Krishna performed, his playful sidelong glances, his smiles and his words, although we forget all our material engagements. Sarichal Vanodeshan Kund Pad Vibhushitan Akridanikshyamananam Manoyati Tadatmatam. When we see the places where Mukunda enjoyed his sporting pastimes, the rivers, hills, and forests he decorated with his feet, our minds become totally absorbed in him. So this is what we should remember. It's just like if If we love somebody, just like a mother and a baby, son or girl, and son or daughter has gone to school and mother is cleaning the house and mother sees the things of the baby, maybe the shoe and maybe the clothes, and she just remembers the baby. She doesn't see the shoe. She sees how this shoe is connected to my baby, and she always thinks of the baby. So similarly, everything should remind us of Krishna. What Krishna did here. But okay, so somebody can say in Delhi he is not here, but everything should remind us of Krishna, because nothing is separate from Krishna. And that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, no? I'm the taste of water. So when we are drinking water, we should remember Krishna. I'm the light of sun and moon. Without the light of sun and moon, nothing can happen. We cannot see. So when we are seeing and when we see the sunlight and the moonlight, we should remember Krishna. There's so many things. So Nand Maharaj is further saying, Manne Krishnam cha Ramam cha prapta ve surottamam surana mahadev arthaya gargasya vachanam yatha. In my opinion, Krishna and Balram must be two exalted demigods who have come to this planet to fulfill some great mission of the demigods, such was foretold by Garga Muni. So I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, so you all have a safe and Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada.